All right, welcome back to another episode of the VP. My guest here today is Jeremy Beland. I hope I'm pronouncing it
Beland,
correctly.
close enough.
Jeremy Beland. He's a former Air Force veteran who has grown his business into an expert off-market acquisition company, completing over 425 off-market deals across multiple markets, some of which have scaled into multi-million-dollar properties with over 10 million in total gross profits. He and his team have mastered a variety of exit strategies, including wholesaling, wholetailing, flipping, and keeping properties as rentals. But beyond the numbers, it's freedom that he's achieved, escaping his 9-to-5 grind and building life on his own terms that truly stands out. Now he's on a mission to help others do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 3 with Jeremy Beland. And Jeremy, thanks again for jumping on with us.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's a great honor to be on this podcast today. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You of course, your story is incredible, and you started. You downsized into a tiny apartment 40 years ago. Can you kind of share with the listeners what motivated you to get into that mindset? Because I was joking with a buddy of mine last week that I have a friend of mine that he's kind of struggling with his business, and all it's going to take to get him over the top is to drop his BMW. I think he drives a 5 Series and get into something like a Ford. And literally that money that he's pumping into the BMW, he would easily use it to finance everything till he can, get more capital. So it's obviously not an easy mind shift. Can you share with us how what motivated you to kind of make that shift?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a long journey how it got to that point where I had that mind shift. So, I'll just give a brief synopsis of how I got there. And I'll mention a couple key points that'll kind of put it into perspective. So really came into this world homeless with with a child as a single mom who was in her early 20s, had her, a child out of wedlock. Family didn't really want her, so we were kind of bouncing around, really poor as kids. We were living on welfare. And then as I got a little older, she found somebody. She got married. Then we went on to have, during my, childhood to preteen age, lower middle class. Life was good. We had a house, we had a garage, I had a bike, we had cars and everything else, which was not what I had before that. And then my stepfather at the time, as I was getting ready to go into high school, decided he wanted to be an entrepreneur and start his own window cleaning business and leaving a really good job to do it. And in the process, ended up failing miserably, and we lost everything. So as I was going into high school, we got into a point where we lost the house to foreclosure. They went through bankruptcy. Next thing you know, I'm in 3 different high schools in my first 2 years of high school. Became a bad kid, got into crime and petty crime and, drugs and alcohol and stuff, got depressed. Right. So I just headed down the wrong road because they were in survival mode, just trying to figure things out because their life was a complete mess. And that carried on well into my teenage years. And then, I just, from there, I was just always just kind of broke and poor. I'm talking like broke or poor, like, didn't have money for clothes, didn't have money for food. There were certain times that were better than others, but there was a lot of times like we didn't even have hot water in the house. We had to take cold winter showers because that's all we could afford to do. And then, I started to realize that I wanted a better life for me. And then in my early 20s, I found the gym and started exercising, which led me to meeting right people, working on personal development. I quit doing smoking cigarettes and different things like that. Anyway, led me to a journey where I was playing semi-pro football. So if you guys don't know what semi-pro football, it's just like an adult football league. I was a good athlete as a kid, but due to what happened, sports was pulled away from me. Now I was in a position to start playing sports. As I'm working as a high-rise window cleaner in Boston, making a whopping $22,000 a year hanging off skyscrapers in my early to mid 20s. A friend of mine says from the football team says, "Hey, I think you'd be a really good position for this job that we got opening up." And that was to sell copiers and printers. So I went into this job, never even owned a tie, no white collar job, had, no high school diploma, no college degree. Somehow I got this job selling printers and copiers and fax machines. Taught me a lot about perseverance, taught me a lot about, there's a lot of no's to get the yes, right? And I found myself having some success. It went on to, then I ended up meeting a girl and got married, had 2 young kids. And now I find myself in my early 30s. I'm making well into the 6 figures. Life is great. And, I can't do no wrong. And then the recession happens in 2008. And I got crushed during that time. And this is kind of where the journey into real estate starts to happen. So at that time, I was really, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read the Cash Flow Quadrant. I was starting to get into real estate investing, even went to a Donald Trump University thing. Later, there's no longer in business, was looking into Peter Conti. But then I lost my job and I couldn't afford my house. There was no help with that. That's when I joined the Air Force, because at that point, I was 33 years old, had no, I was losing everything. And I just felt like a failure. I'm like, here we go. History's going to repeat itself, right? I got 2 kids and a wife to depend for, and I can't get a job anywhere. But I had an opportunity to go into the Air Force to get basically an education, was what I was thinking, because I couldn't afford to go back to college. I needed to do something else. I couldn't wash windows. I couldn't sell carpets. I didn't know what to do. But being that I needed to go into the Air Force, I needed a top secret clearance, and they weren't going to allow me that if I went into foreclosure and bankruptcy. But at that time, I knew enough to reach out to a local real estate investor who came out and helped me through a short sale, which prevented me from going to the bankruptcy and foreclosure. So my first off-market transaction, I was the distressed seller. And he allowed me to go into the military. So at 33, just before the age of 34, I went into basic training with a bunch of 17-year-old kids, right? My nickname was Gramps because I was twice their age. Went away for 6 months, built myself. And then from 2010 to 2016, I served in the Air National Guard. During that time, started to rebuild my life back up financially, ended up getting divorced, moved out on my own, had my kids 50% of the time. And as 2015-16 was coming, I was traveling all along the country with my sales job, and I'm just thinking, man, I'm approaching 40 years old. What am I going to do? I really have no retirement. I don't want to do the Air Force for the rest of my life. I need to find a better way, and I don't want to be broke again. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be in a position where something out of my control forces me to have no income. It scared the hell out of me. So I started really researching real estate again, because I've always had that bug. Came across a wholesaling podcast that led me into joining their coaching program. So in 2016, just after I got out of the Air Force National Guard, I owned a townhome for 2 years. I sold it because it was the only money I had. I took the $17,000 in equity, and I basically took 11,000 of that dollars, and I invested into 5,000 into the coaching program, 6,000 to start in my journey, moved my kids into a crappy little 2-bedroom apartment, and we burned the boats. And then, for the next 3 years, I worked a full-time job and built my business. We went on to do 10 deals that first year. But now, as we stand here today, I've done my businesses have gone on to do over 450 deals in multiple markets. And, it's been a lot of work. It hasn't been easy. But the reason why I have that mindset is because I'm so afraid of being broke and poor again that every day I wake up with a drive to succeed. So even though I have control of my time and freedom, which is amazing, I work very hard still, because I'm so incredibly motivated to make sure, that situation doesn't happen in my life again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's definitely something that can motivate you internally. It's incredible to hear, and it's incredible driver. I can now put it into perspective on how you were able to shift that gear. Wow.
Sorry, it was a long answer, but it kind of shows why I'm the way I am, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely inspiring, man. So of course, now you went over what the pivotal moment was, and the motivation was that made you take that leap. let's kind of dive into your early challenges and the lessons that you learned along the way. When you first started your wholesaling journey, what were some biggest challenges that you faced within that particular industry?
Sure, sure.
And how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, perseverance is how I overcame them. And there was a lot of
Mhm,
gut check moments where I thought, shoot, if this deal doesn't happen, it's all over, especially those first 2 years. We were living deal
mhm,
to deal. The coaching
mhm,
program that I initially went into was great to teach me how to get my first deal, but it didn't
mhm,
really have the resources that helped me rinse and repeat. So, I was kind of just, flaring in the wind there, trying to figure it out for a while until I
mhm,
got more coaching. So, the beginning was really just the lack of really not knowing what I didn't know, right? So there was just so much more that I needed to know that I didn't know.
mhm,
Um, so I was just getting a deal and just kind of feeling my way forward, massive imperfect progression to the next deal. And,
mhm,
and it was just, some deals were good, some deals were bad. And it was like,
mhm,
so there was a lot of failure those first couple of years.
mhm,
So, it wasn't until I started to really find more coaching and more guidance.
mhm,
And, that's really been a big part of my success is, the reason why we've done over 450 deals is because since we started the journey, we've reinvested a lot of money, upwards of like 300,000 plus dollars into ongoing personal development for me, and
mhm.
people in my business to help us continue to grow. Without the support of people who are more experienced and successful than me, it would have taken us a lot longer to achieve the success that we have. And still today, I have multiple coaches because it's almost like a crutch. Like I always want to make sure that I'm learning and growing because I'm
Mhm.
afraid to regress. So, the first couple of years, it was not knowing what I didn't know. It was, not having good guidance to teach me how to improve things, and
Mhm.
cash flow. Cash flow was one of the bigger issues. We're living deal to deal and didn't really know how to get it to be consistent in the beginning.
Okay, so let me ask you follow up on that. You said that it was eventually until you got more coaching. That's how you overcame those challenges. So pretty much that initial coaching that you had, that initial program that you had, there were no strategies. There weren't really any uh And correct me if I'm misstating this. There weren't really any strategy, at least not that you know of, that says, well, if you encounter this situation, well, here's your playbook for that. If you encounter this situation, like they have, Belichick had the Coach
Yeah.
Belichick had,
Yeah.
Coach Belichick had a red zone
Yeah.
offense, 2 minute offense. So okay, so I guess there was not really that, but you made that decision, tactical decision to get more coaches, and those coaches that you got as a matter of personal policy, they provided that guidance to
Yeah, that's
okay, okay.
100% correct. So, like,
Okay.
the first program, like I said, it really was good at teaching me everything I need to know to do the first
Mhm,
deal. And it was tremendous. It
mhm,
was so much I learned and didn't know during that process. And I thought
mhm,
I knew what I needed to know to wholesale. I was completely wrong. But it didn't tell me how to get better talking to sellers. It didn't teach me how to handle my marketing. It didn't teach me how to grow a business, right? It didn't teach me any of these things. So,
mhm,
what I've found in my journey, and I guess I still do it to this day, is I get to a certain point, I realize, all right, here is a need that I need to achieve in my business, right, in order
mhm.
to get to that next level, whatever it is, and then I just start looking for coaching. I'll just start going out there. So maybe one coach leads me to another, but it's always
Yeah,
been me very proactive, looking to
yeah.
find like, all right, here's where we're stalled. How do I
Mhm,
get past this? I need to have somebody who can help me. So I've been constantly looking for all these different coaches along the way, how to get better sales, how to get
mhm,
private lending, how to scale my business, how to hire people, how to
mhm,
run the business at a profitable level, all these different things I had to
mhm.
learn along the way because I'm not a natural business owner. It doesn't come
Yeah,
natural for me. I have to work really
right.
hard at it. Everything I've done in this business, I've had to work really hard at it. But
Mhm.
again, it's that perseverance and persistence to just want it to achieve and not fail.
Okay, so but the one important decision that you did that I'm taking away is that you made a strategic decision to always have a coach that can address whatever particular challenge we're facing at any particular time. And so you always had a coach to kind of meet that any particular challenge that you had along that journey, right?
Yeah, because we don't know what we don't know. And
Yeah.
and related to like the military, right? We always have orders, right?
Yeah.
We may not understand the mission, right?
Hmm.
But we have orders to do in the mission, and sometimes you just need a coach. You may not understand the mission yet,
Yeah.
but they can at least give you the orders to get you in the right position to understand the
Wow.
mission and
Wow.
accomplish that mission later on.
Yeah. Okay. That's outstanding. That's okay. So I wanted to hammer on that takeaway that okay, and I've heard this is the additional time that I'm hearing that you always need a coach because they're regardless of whatever stage in the journey that you are, even professional athletes that they say they always have coaches. So, but before we get too far though, Jeremy, I know we are this is a business audience and so on and so forth, but some of our audience is not really that savvy in business. Could you explain, kind of in simple terms, what is the difference between wholesaling and just a regular real estate transaction where a realtor, sells or buys a single house? What's the
Sure,
difference?
sure. So wholesaling is how we initially began. It's
Mhm.
it's part of our business model today, but it's not the primary business model as once we got started. So
Mhm.
wholesaling is really just the art of finding discounted properties, but
Oh,
it
okay.
it's really just you go and get a purchase and sales direct to the seller. So you find this person who's distressed, right? Maybe
Mhm.
through marketing channels, you find somebody who owns 123 Main Street who's at the brink of foreclosure, like I was back in the day, and
Oh,
they have equity in their home. They're willing to sell you their home at a discount in exchange for
mhm.
some kind of value you can bring. Could be speed, convenience, help them get a reset button like what happened to me and provide them some
Yeah.
new value.
Mhm.
So you put a property under contract at 123 Main Street. It's
Mhm.
an assignable contract. And then you go and identify a cash buyer who can
Mhm.
then close on this house with cash as a cash purchase, because a
Oh,
lot of these
okay.
properties are as is. And you assign the rights to that cash buyer via an assignment contract. And that
Mhm.
allows him to execute your purchase and sales agreement. So I get a contract for 123 Main Street for $100,000. I assign the rights to an end buyer, cash buying investor for
Mhm.
$120,000. The seller gets the $100,000. The buyer pays 120. I get the $20,000 in between via an assignment fee.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. That was actually an important explanation because I was confused on and you can tell how much I know about real
Yeah.
estate. I was thinking like the standard wholesale definition, but thanks for explaining that. That definitely provided a lot of insight. Yeah. Okay. So now as far as investing in coaching, how how did that okay what is second? I think we probably already addressed this obviously you already addressed this in the previous two questions that the investment in the coaching definitely paid off a lot obviously from a lot of your long-term success and your success along the way. Now let me kind of dive into growth a little bit.
Sure.
How did your business evolve from a beginner's endeavor to an expert off-market acquisition company? What were some critical strategies that fueled this growth? I know you have of course mentioned coaching, but what were other strategies or
Sure.
tactics that were involved in that process?
Yeah, so they're definitely real estate related.
Hmm.
So what we learned at wholesaling beginning, right, was the art of finding discounted properties, right? So we were
Hmm.
going to try to find those people at 123 Main Street that were facing foreclosure, right? I'm just using that example to
Hmm.
paint the picture. There's a lot of different reasons why people fall into different categories of distress.
Hmm.
So what happens is we would wholesale those deals, right? Give it to the cash buyer and make $20,000.
Hmm.
What I found over time, though, was I was spending a lot of money on marketing. I was working
Hmm.
really hard to secure these deals, and I felt like I wasn't getting as much revenue as I should per these deals. So one of the first strategic things that we did was we found out through one of my coaches that
Hmm.
we could leverage the MLS to market these properties. So once we have it under contract, there's a
Hmm.
legal way that's vetted out by attorneys in the real estate commission that you
Hmm.
can market this property, and doing that allowed me to get the property out to a lot more people, which
Hmm.
allowed them to be more competitive on bidding up my properties. So
Hmm.
rather than just selling for 20,000, Now, all of a sudden, overnight, I was selling it for 30 to 35,000. So I had almost a 50% increase in revenue, not doing anything other than this small strategic change. Another thing I noticed was that there was a lot of opportunity rather than giving these deals away that I'd like to keep them for myself, but I didn't have the financial resources to do that. But in this business, we can use other people's money to achieve the same thing. So what we do is it's called like private money. So there's people that we know in our network that have money in, HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, this 401k, self-directed IRA, whole life insurance, right? All these various ways that people have access to hundreds of thousands of dollars that really aren't providing any return for them. So we borrow that money from them. And this is something I, again, found out from a coach. I knew about it, but I needed to learn how it worked. Hired a coach, he taught me. So now I could go out and borrow, say, $100,000 from somebody I know. And I would take that $100,000 and I would actually buy the property, do some work to it, and sell it, right? Fix and flip or different variations thereof, or keep as rentals, which would help my personal wealth. But we could now take that $30,000, $35,000. Now we're turning it into $50,000, $60,000 by using somebody else's money. I can still leave all of our limited money in the company to spend for operations and marketing and cash flow purposes. But leveraging somebody else's money didn't mean I was limited, right? So the more people I found, the more money I had access to. Now I didn't have to just buy one property at a time. I could buy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties at one point, because if I was using my own money, I would be capped out at some point. So this allowed me to scale and have more volume. And then I would borrow the $100,000, do the property, sell it, give them the $100,000 back, plus pay them interest. And that allowed me to significantly do a lot more properties on a monthly consistent basis, and allowed me to really scale the volume that we could do, and really helped us grow in a lot of different areas. So those were 2 pivotal points to get us to where we are today.
Okay, so private loans, private loans,
and marketing on the MLS.
And marketing on the MLS. Okay, so those are 2 key takeaways on that. Okay,
yeah.
So
and I guess one last thing, I'm so sorry to interrupt, was hiring the right people on the bus to start delegating things, so I didn't have to do everything anymore. That was
okay.
So those 3 things.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, so on exit strategies, you utilize exit strategies like wholesaling, wholetailing, and flipping. Yeah, can you explain the difference between these strategies and share how you decide, which one to use for a particular property?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So, really the exit strategy decision really determines on a few different things. How much private money do we have access to? Like, have we already gone through the millions? Do we have like 12 properties out there in various stages of construction and process, right? Whatever our cash flow needs are, and how much revenue can we get out of the property, right? So each of those exit strategies will yield a different type of revenue and a different timeline. So we can wholesale a property for $20,000 and get our money in like 2 weeks. We can wholetail, and a wholetail is basically we borrow somebody's money. We actually physically close on the property. We do little to nothing. Maybe we clean it out, do some light paint, within a week or 2, that thing is back on the market as a retail sale to somebody else. But those typically take 45 to 60 days. So we make more than a wholesale, but now we have to wait 45 to 60 days rather than 2 weeks to get our money. Or we can, if it's depending on the type of property, and really the condition of the property kind of determines it a little bit as well. I mean, if it's a property that needs a new kitchen and a new roof and new bathrooms and new floors, that becomes more of a fix and flip. And, a lot of times we will sell those if it's a big project to other investors. But if we feel like in 90 days we can renovate this property and make a really good profit, then we'll do that. So we decide on all those exit strategies. For one, cash flow, how quickly do we need the money? How much money do we have access to? And, and how much money can we squeeze out of the property? So each deal that comes through, it's really a case by case basis.
Oh, okay. That's excellent. It definitely makes sense, depending on, whatever short term or long term goal that you're trying to achieve.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Let's kind of dive into market expansion a little bit. You've completed over 425 off-market acquisitions on multiple markets.
Yeah.
some of which have grown into multi-million dollar properties. I hope I'm using the right word,
Yeah.
but
Operations. Yeah.
operations.
Yep.
How did you identify and penetrate these markets, and what factors contributed to their success?
Yeah. Well, so what I know now is I shouldn't have done it as soon as I
Mhm,
did. In
mhm,
our industry of real estate investing, it's really exciting and trendy and popular to do multiple markets. But the
mhm,
reality is, you can squeeze a lot more juice out of the lemon in your own market before you start going into explore other markets. So I
mhm,
always hesitate to tell anybody to start looking at secondary markets because we just think, oh, hey, we'll just do what we're doing here, do it in a different market, and we'll make twice as much money.
mhm,
Yes and no. Because
mhm,
you have to rob Peter to pay Paul in that expansion time, right?
mhm,
So when really our first market really just was really just a dumb luck, dumb decision. We went out to Buffalo, New York, and we just saw a ton of distress like we never saw up here in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, where I'm from. And we went out there to do some coaching, and I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. I know what we need to do. I could totally kill it here. So we tried
mhm,
running it. We decided we're going to go in. We started trying to do it what we call virtually, meaning like I'm here in New Hampshire. I'm trying to call people in New York, get the properties under contract and sell them from a wholesale perspective. It was a
mhm,
complete disaster. Then we
mhm,
tried to hire somebody. That was a complete disaster. It wasn't until we found the right hire that we turned it around into a great success. And we went on to do
mhm,
like I don't know, over 150 deals in like 2.5 years before we decided to leave the New York market for various reasons. But we had an opportunity where somebody said, hey, I would love to do business with you. Can I partner up with you? And we went into like Wichita, Kansas, had some moderate success. The guy says,
mhm.
this doesn't work for me. He left. We tried to hire. It failed. We canceled. We went to Las Vegas, same thing. Somebody's like, hey, we should be able to do business. I said, all right, that sounds great. I'll teach you everything I know. We'll spend the money for marketing. You go get the deals. The guy didn't go get the deals, didn't care to get the deals. It failed.
Oh
And
man.
then we had an opportunity leaving New York with our sales coach and our coaching business, Dan Toback, to
Mhm,
go into Florida, which is something I've really wanted to do for a long time. Went
mhm,
into Florida, hit some bumps, but overall it's been a pretty good success. So New York has been a great market for us during the 3 years, but it was a lot of trouble getting it up and running. But we closed that down to go into
mhm,
Florida. So now today we have two markets. We're in New Hampshire,
mhm,
Massachusetts, which is considered one market up here in the Northeast. And then we're
uh-huh.
down in Southeast Florida as our second market. And we average multiple houses in each market on a monthly basis.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's great. So so you have to. It's better to optimize the current market that you're in to the
100%.
maximum before jumping into another market or
Yeah.
multiple markets.
Yeah. You should be, if you've tried everything, you're at the point of diminishing
Mhm.
returns, right? You can't spend
Yeah.
any more marketing. You can't do anything. That is a great opportunity to identify a different market. And,
Mhm,
and there's a lot of ways to identify different markets, but
mhm,
most people don't need to go into multiple markets. They can make more money with less
mhm,
headaches and less time and less bandwidth staying in the
mhm.
market they're already in. They just don't know that.
Oh wow. Oh, very great. Very very great takeaways on that. Yeah. So I like to hopefully I'm just for sake of time I want to kind of get through all these questions, but
Yeah,
hopefully I can
sure.
we could we can do a round two sometime down in the future. Now as far as mindset, what mindset shifts were necessary for you to transition from a W-2 life to living on your own terms, and how do you maintain that mindset today?
A lot of personal development, again,
Mhm,
coaching, but I read a lot,
mhm,
and just personal development. I refuse to give up. I fail. I make
mhm,
mistakes. I get knocked down. I just keep getting up and keep moving forward. Massive imperfect action. It's never going to stop. I'm going to have failures along the way. You can't be afraid of failures. I'd
mhm,
much rather fail than be broke and poor again. I'm much more
mhm,
afraid of that. Right. So that's my motivation. So that mindset has always just been really key of us keep pushing forward. Just keep going forward. Those who thrive in our business are the ones who survive. So survival is key.
mhm,
Sometimes, you have the ups and downs of economy and real estate. You have to survive that, pivot and move and just live to, fight another day. And then, on top of that, I think is learning how to believe in myself, that I'm worthy of success, worthy of leading people, being somebody who, always felt inferior growing up, that everybody was more educated than me, more successful than me, made me feel insecure in a lot of ways. And, I never thought I'd be worthy of success, right? Or worthy of making money. So those are things that I had to overcome in time. They weren't easy. I continue to work at them today.
Okay, that's absolutely insightful. Absolutely insightful. So, yeah, so personal development, continuous personal development, and another key thing is to always have that knowledge that you're worth, getting the kind of wealth that you're getting. Okay, yeah, because I think there's quite a few people I've met on investment networking events that have a little bit close to your background. But this is important to know, and this is important for our listeners to know. Let me jump into another question real quick. You built a life of freedom, obviously. How would you define time freedom, and what steps did you take to achieve that level of freedom?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I mean,
how would you define time?
yeah, I mean, obviously leaving my W-2 after, I was working on my business and still working as a W-2 employee for the first 3 years of my business. Here we are finishing year 8. So now I've been 5 years, approaching the end of 5 years of not being with the W-2. So that allowed me to have a lot more freedom, right? I wasn't dictated on when I could take time off, dictated on how I had to dress, right? So one of the things that really, I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday. As a military person, you might relate, right? There was a long time being in the military and being in professional sales that I had to shave with a razor every single day. I was just telling, I haven't used a razor on my face in like 2-3 years. I just use an electric razor real quick and give me a little bit of scruff. I live a world in a scruff. To me, that's freedom, right? Being able to take time off whenever I want. If my wife and I want to go away, we go away. If we want to take the kids on a vacation, we take the kids on a vacation. We don't have to ask for permission. If I don't feel like working today, I don't have to. If I don't want to get out of bed, I don't have to. I do because I love what I do, but I don't have to. And more importantly, like when I was able to hire my wife full time and she no longer had to go to the office, and we're a blended family now, 5 kids. When she was able to stop having to bring her kids to daycare and work a long job, then come home, rushing home before daycare closed, the ability to get them on a school bus and then be home when they got off the school bus was one of those pivotal moments of freedom that we got to experience through the help of this real estate business. And then, then we got to work from home. And then the kids had, no matter what they had after school, sports, courses, concerts, activities at school, we were present for all of it. When COVID happened, no big deal. We ran our business from home because that's all we have ever did. It was no different. All these $1 million businesses and markets and all these houses I've done from my kitchen table with my wife, right? And my team members do it from their kitchen tables. So that is really the freedom that we have. We still work hard. We still love what we do. There's still a lot of days that I'm like, oh my God, this thing is going to bring me to my knees. But every day I have the freedom to do what the hell I want. And that to me is super important. Even if it means I make less money, I want to be in control of my day, my time, my decisions. I don't want that dictated by somebody else. Experience it in the military, experience it as a W-2 employee. I don't want to experience that anymore. That's my freedom in my life.
Yeah. I would say it is definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. And if I can kind of, ask another question on top of that, were there moments of doubt or uncertainty, being that you have to do it on your own, and how did you overcome those moments when the doubt starts creeping in, and what kept you moving forward?
So yes, and they still happen today, and they will never stop, right? So there's always going to be sleepless nights, things that happen out of your control. There's going to be financial stresses. There's going to be emotional distresses, right? This is business. This is real estate. This is life. There's only so much we can control. So there's going to be good days, and there's sure as heck going to be a ton of bad days. And those bad days are no different. The only thing is now you may be responsible for other people and providing, employment for other people, that carries a
Mhm.
whole nother weight of stress on top of you.
Mhm.
So yeah, I still have a lot of doubt. I've always had doubt. I just deal with it, right? What are you going to
Mhm.
do? Only thing you can do is figure out a solution, and eat the frog, do the hard thing every day, just
Mhm.
get through it. If you make a mistake, learn from it, move on, keep pushing forward, live to fight another day. You're always going to have doubt. You're always going to make mistakes. You just got to keep pushing forward. And what
Mhm.
happens when you keep pushing forward, you start to get better and you slowly get
Mhm.
better. And it's like the market, right? It's up and down, but you trend in an upward cycle. So you're still going to have your downs, but you're getting better
Yeah.
and better as time goes on.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay, that's great. So as you encounter those ups and downs, it kind of hardens you and makes you better relative to
Correct.
the position you were in
Hardens
before.
hardens a good term. It hardens
Yeah.
you. I like that.
And let's kind of dive into coaching and mentorship. Now that you have others that you're coaching through REI Freedom Coaching, what are some of the common obstacles that your clients face, and how do you help them overcome those? Especially being important that now that you're coaching, it's been at least 5 years since the time when you got in. Now 5 years in this day and age is kind of it's a lot. Uh, that's a lot of time difference. So what are some of these common obstacles that you noticing that your clients are facing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's fear.
Hmm.
It's fear of the unknown, fear of failure. So, and
Hmm.
it results into, analysis paralysis. They really
Hmm.
want to know everything before they make a decision because they're
Yeah.
afraid of losing money, afraid
Hmm.
of it not working, afraid of, some kind of ramification that's negative. But the
Hmm.
reality is, there is no perfect time, right? I call it,
Hmm.
like, there's no such thing as a unicorn, right? A
Hmm.
unicorn is perfect. There's no perfect time. The market's never going to be perfect. Your time to join is never going to be perfect. There's no perfect
Hmm.
house to flip, no perfect rental. There's no perfect anything. There's just
Yeah.
different levels of good and bad.
Yeah.
So you have to just get over the analysis paralysis. Somebody I was reading the other day posted, like, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to see the first stair. So
Yeah.
getting people to believe, hey, just take that first step with me, then we'll take the
Hmm.
second step and the third step. And eventually you go all the way up the staircase and you see the whole thing. But you don't need to see the whole staircase now. It's
Yeah.
too overwhelming. It's too much to know. All you need to do is just work on this first step because this is going to
Hmm.
drive revenue. Work on the
Yeah.
second step, it's going to make you better driving revenue,
Hmm.
right? So that's probably the biggest challenge I've seen in my students as far as challenges overcome.
Oh, wow. That is very, very important. That is very important. Yeah. Absolutely insightful. Now, on the impact of coaching, can you share a success story from your coaching experience where someone was able to achieve a significant milestone under your guidance?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
So, I had two students that hit home runs right out of the gate earlier this year, which was quite amazing. And I'll share with one of them. So, I'll make the story quick. Basically, these guys, I did a presentation at a local real estate meetup. They met with me. They wanted to join our coaching program. They needed
Mhm.
some guidance. They saw what I was doing. They wanted to do that.
Mhm.
So they were in our coaching program doing all the right things, and they got this property under contract, and they were getting ready to wholesale it, or they were getting ready to put this property under contract, just to say. And it was their first deal, and they reached out to some local buyers, and the local buyers are saying, "Hey, what that lady wants for a price is too much money. Too much money.
Mhm.
Don't do it. You'll never make any money." And they were,
Mhm.
again, afraid to put the property under contract for too much money because they were afraid they couldn't perform and what would be the ramifications of that. And
Mhm.
I told them, because it was a limited mindset, because we have this exit strategy that's going to allow them to persevere. I said, whoa, go back, put that property under contract. We're going to market
Mhm.
it out to the buyers because we have this way of marketing out to the buyers where they compete against each other. And a whole bunch of them come in, and like in this open house style, and they
Mhm.
bid it all up. And that's how we get a lot of money off of our deals.
Mhm.
And they said, okay, all right. So they were literally $10,000 away from walking away from this lady because she wanted $10,000 more than they were told by some local people, saying that's too much money. Now, that's fine. Those local people may be too much money for them, but there's a whole bunch of other people that have different price points and different exit strategies and different values of things. So I convinced them to go put the property under contract, which they did, and they did a great job. We went and marketed the property to their growing cash buyers list, and they showed all these investors. We funneled them into a fishbowl through an open house inspection walkthrough is what we call it. And there was like 20 people there, and they look at it, and then they started bidding up the offers. This turned out to be a $40,000 deal for them when it was all said and done. And this was a deal that they were getting ready to leave and not do because a couple people were saying, no, that's too much money. Well, it was too much money for them, but they got the deal and made $40,000 because other people were willing to spend $40,000 more than these other guys. And that's just the mindset of not knowing what you don't know and having to trust your coach, right? So we all have blind spots. There's so much stuff in this business, even at my success level and track record, still so much I don't know. But somebody who's been around and done all the things that I want to achieve knows these things, and I can get them. So that was one of the most exciting things that I've experienced as a coach, because they were so close to walking away. And then to get $40,000 to come into the business, I mean, that changes people's lives. And that was a really exciting moment for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If I was being coached by you, that would have definitely that would have definitely.
They're gonna stay with us now.
Because I think you encountered that kind of stuff in a lot of businesses or a lot of entrepreneur verticals where someone starts working with a coach, then either their family or their friend from high school says, "Oh man, I heard that's XYZ. I heard this, or that ad will never work, or that's how now I heard from." It's always they heard this guy told them from somebody else that heard, but but you got to listen to your coach, right? That's the takeaway from.
I agree, and I'll piggyback on that. I think most people don't do anything in life they want to do because they take advice from people who are telling them it's a bad idea, who have never done it. One of my previous coaches used to say his dad used to tell him, "You don't want to buy properties and be a landlord. You don't want to have to wake up at 2:00 in the morning with a clogged toilet. That's going to ruin your life." He says to his dad, "Dad, have you ever owned a property?" His dad's like, "No." Then how do you know what it's like to own a property, and how can you give me advice on it? Right. So that's where we're getting a lot of advice on business from a lot of people. So you make a really good point there.
Okay. Absolutely insightful, man. So on generating on the financial success aspect of this, your company has generated 10 million in total gross profits. What are the most important financial lessons that you've learned? That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. Considering your origins. What are the most important financial lessons you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so many. So gross profit is not net profit. That's a big one. You can easily overspend in marketing and scaling in this business to a point where it's a detriment. And knowing that you have weak spots, right? So I am not good, financially, and there's a lot of things that I need to get better at. So I hired a CFO coach a couple of years ago, and I have a business manager who works as a day-to-day bookkeeper, because those aren't my strengths. My strengths are teaching people and teaching my business how to get better at acquiring off-market properties. It's not really good at balancing P&Ls and how to get the property lean. And those are things that I need help with and that I'm constantly looking to learn at. So some of those things, man, it's just like, there's been a lot of times I've overspent on a lot of different things like marketing that I shouldn't have. And it really cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars when it's all said and done, and hurt me from a net profit. Sometimes I've hired too many people too soon because I wanted to delegate too fast. I wanted to go into different markets too quick. So I poured money into it. These are things that I should have slowed down. Again, I think where I stand today is less is more. I don't need to keep up with the Joneses and scale. And if I do, I can do it at my own pace rather than trying to keep up with who I perceive is doing a better job on Facebook or something.
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let me ask you real quick on scaling the business. What advice would you give to someone looking to scale their real estate investment? I mean, you've definitely, you know, gone through taking action from coaches. You've taken action from when you learned from your own experience. So taking all that into account, what advice and insight would you give to someone looking to scale their real estate investment business to reach similar financial success?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, you need to invest in personal development coaching. That's going to be
Hmm.
your key to succeeding success, a
Hmm.
lot quicker, right? Otherwise, you're just going to make too many mistakes. So you're going to
Hmm.
invest in coaching or you're going to invest in mistakes. One's going to provide a lot more revenue for you in the long run, and it's going to shorten the
Hmm.
time on
Hmm.
getting there. But, with that being said, I think, you know, you have to understand this is a marathon and not a sprint. I think in my
Hmm.
journey, I thought, oh my God, I could do this for 5, 10 years and I'm going to retire. That isn't true. So you need to take a step back and say, hey, I'm going to just do this the rest of my life. And if I plan out the rest of my life, there's no hurry to get to any specific spot. I don't have
Hmm.
to do so many houses or so many millions of dollars or so many markets. I could just take
Hmm.
the slow and steady approach and be healthy
Hmm.
and strong and consistent. And I think people sometimes just need to slow down with coaching. I mean,
Hmm.
scaling, but get yourself some good coaching. Do what the revenue says. Remember, you can maximize where you already are before you need to reach out to other areas. And
Hmm.
don't get drawn in by keeping up with the Joneses on social media and stuff like that. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. Stay in
Yeah.
your lane. Do what's best for yourself. Put blinders on. Ignore everybody else, and just do what's best for you and your family.
Oh, that is awesome, and that is awesome, and I will say that that applies to a lot of other business that a lot of business and entrepreneurs that I run across. So that's definitely a great advice there. For those getting started, I mean, because there are obviously um, other veterans out there that are just leaving the service, looking towards entrepreneurship, or even just other people leaving the W-2 9 to 5, trying to get started in entrepreneurship. For those individuals in that group, uh, what practical steps would you recommend that they take to set themselves up for success? And not wing it, or so to speak.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think you really need to understand what niche you really want to focus yourself into and understand that starting
Hmm.
a business is hard. You're
Hmm.
going to have to burn the candles at both ends for a couple years minimum to really build it into something successful, right? Most businesses don't
Hmm.
survive 5 years, right? So
Hmm.
those first few years are critical. You can do this alongside other obligations like working a full-time job and other family
Hmm.
commitments, but it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to compromise and sacrifice a ton of stuff, right? You have to
Hmm.
understand, am I willing to sacrifice today to reap the benefits later on? And there's no way around that. So,
Hmm.
find the niche that you want. And then find somebody who can teach you to do the niche that you want, that you vibe with. Somebody who's doing
Hmm.
the business that you want to do. It doesn't have to be real estate, but whatever that niche is,
Hmm.
the somebody you vibe with that's currently doing, because markets change, things change. If they did it
Hmm.
10 years ago and don't do it today, things may not still apply. So, in my
Hmm.
personal opinion, make sure you're hyper focused on that niche, all in, no shiny object syndromes. Find a coach that you vibe with, that you have a good feeling with, because if you don't vibe with that person, you're not going to get the most out of it. And then make
Hmm.
sure they're actively doing that business. Do that. Start there. You can always
Hmm.
change later on and pivot and maybe open up different niches, but focus on one for at least 12 to 24 months to at least get the process started and rolling.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a very solid takeaway. Um, so on balancing risk and reward. I mean, because a lot of people, a lot of podcasts or talk shows or books that you're gonna read saying, risk. You get rewarded for risk, get rewarded for risk. Okay, so we hear a lot of that. Is there a best practice? Is there kind of a way to go about it that's reasonable? how do you balance the risks of real estate investing with the potential rewards? And what advice would you give to others about managing risks? Because I mean, it's understandable that you can wing it, you can take risks, but for someone in your position that has already done it, you obviously know that there are some things that you probably say, let's kind of table that one.
Yeah,
What do you look for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. It's a tough one to answer. So, I mean, there's risk in everything we do, right? And there's also reward in everything we do. I'm not a big believer in big risk, big reward. I take a lot of small risk. I'm not afraid of risk because I know I have to. But I'm probably a little conservative on risk, especially like when it comes to borrowing other people's money for deals. I don't want to take their money on a deal that could be a huge disaster, and I'm put in a position not to take it back. I'd rather just, wait until the next deal comes along that I feel more confident in. So I'm a little conservative in that aspect. I think conservativeness is okay, but I think you can be conservative and risky at the same time. As far as, what works to give advice, I mean, it's really, I think it's too complex and too, individualized to really decide, because every specific situation determines its own risk. But don't risk it all. This isn't gambling, right? Don't put all your chips on the table. You can put a few chips on the table and gamble that, but don't put all the chips on the table.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's great. That's a great answer. Small calculated risks. Okay, that's definitely some insight there. Let's talk about the future goals and closing thoughts. And thanks again. I think since I got into a little bit of technical difficulty, but on your future goals and closing thoughts, what's next for you and your company? Are there any new markets or strategies that you guys are about to explore?
Yeah, no new markets for now. I less is more for me right now. I'm focused on making my two markets better, stronger, leaner, and I want to continue to improve as a business owner. So we're going to just make our Florida market the best we can, and our New England market the best it can. We're trying to acquire more buy and hold rentals for long-term gain. Some we're selling, while we're acquiring others, strategic play long-term, and then really just focusing on growing our coaching business and providing more value. Those are just the things I want to be a better coach. I want to have a better coaching business. I want to have a better home buying businesses. And that's just kind of where I'm at for now. I don't see us making any changes into any new markets. We just need to continue to adapt and get better through the ups and downs of interest rates, economies, and all that stuff. That's enough of a challenge for me right now, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That's still strategy. That's standardized growth and strategy. Yeah, and if you provided a lot of it, so like I said, I want to kind of invite you back, to talk about
Terrific.
yeah, but where can people find you on social media and online and
Yeah.
all that good stuff?
I appreciate it. Yeah, the best way to reach me is like I'm all over all the different social media pages: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Jeremy Beland, Beland, Jeremy Beland. We also have our Facebook group for people who are interested in real estate investing called Off Market REI Freedom Fighters. Go there, provide a lot of great value. But if you're interested and you want to get into this business and learn what it's like to work with somebody like me, you can always go to reifreedom.com/apply and book a strategy call with me and see if I'm a fit for you or if you're a fit for me. And those are the best ways to reach out to me.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot. And all those links to our listeners and viewers are going to be in the description on the YouTube channel and also on the podcast platforms. Hey, Jeremy, thanks a lot, man. It's been a lot of golden nuggets that you dropped on. I've learned a lot. I didn't even know. Okay, I was thinking wholesale was okay. Anyway, thanks for clearing that up. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to. Hey, it's not like when they mean wholesale, but yeah. But thanks for clearing that up and dropping a lot of the knowledge and insight. And if you're interested in following his work or getting in contact with him, like I said, it's going to be in the links. And thanks a lot again, man. And Enjoy football season, man. Enjoy the rest of your
Whoa,
weekend.
no.
And I'm glad Coach Belichick is no longer.
I know.
Hey,
Most people are.
I say that in the pro way, but yeah, but definitely enjoy the rest of your Saturday, brother.
You as well, my friend. I appreciate being on the show. Awesome honor. Thank you so much.
All right, man.